This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Los Angeles. Good afternoon. Welcome to the broadcast.
I don't know how we're going to come back from this.
At least 10 deaths now blamed on those devastating LA wildfires. 10,000 buildings have been destroyed.
It's absolutely devastating, unrecognizable.
One of the victims, a 66-year-old man, perished in the Palisades fire. His sister tells CBS.
When they found him, he had a garden hose in his hand. And
he was trying to fight back the fire.
I believe he did.
The lack of preparation for these fires has victims demanding answers. Robert Ray with Fox Weather has more from Malibu.
Frustrations are mounting. Residents want answers as to how all of these fires got out of control.
LA Mayor Karen Bass under fire for cutting the city's fire budget by $17.5 million. Still, the mayor insists she's on top of things.
We have to protect lives. We have to save lives, and we have to save homes.
But that did not
rest
happen.
assured, let me finish.
The mayor there getting into it with a reporter questioning her leadership. Curfews are now in effect to prevent looting. Insurance companies say they can't cover the losses. Former California congressional candidate Elizabeth Hang.
We should have been prepared for this. We have not built water infrastructure here in California since 1977. We can't stop fires from happening, but we can mitigate them.
Many fire hydrants ran dry when the blazes broke out. This fire victim confronted California's governor about that.
Why was there no water in the hydrants, Governor?
That's all literally.
Is it going to be different next time?
It has to be.
President Biden promises the federal government will pick up the tab for the firefight for at least the next 6 months. Correspondent Jennifer Bjorklund.
This is unprecedented. For 180 days, 100% of this is covered.
Canada's donated fixed-wing aircraft called Super Scoopers, which dump ocean water onto the fires. In addition, the U.S. government is supplying half a dozen C-130 tankers to the firefight. Hollywood actress Jamie Lee Curtis.
Where I live is on fire right now. Literally, the entire city of the Pacific Palisades is burning. Many friends now have lost their homes.
The average price for a home in Jamie Lee Curtis's neighborhood is about $4.5 million. Because of the fire situation in L.A., the NFL has moved this weekend's Rams-Vikings playoff game to Glendale, Arizona. And if you'd like to give to the wildfire relief effort, check out familylife.org/relief to learn more. It was sentencing day today for Donald Trump, the president-elect, sentenced this morning by Manhattan Judge Juan Merchan after being convicted at his hush money trial. Legal analyst Jessica Levinson.
There will be no jail time. There will be no probation. There will be no ankle bracelet. Really what there will be is just a sentence that acknowledges that there was a conviction and nothing more.
Fox News legal scholar Trey Gowdy says for Judge Merchan, today's legal proceeding was purely about politics.
They're getting nothing out of this other than he can go to cocktail parties and say, I made Trump a felon, but he also needs to add, I also helped get him reelected.
Trump attended today's sentencing remotely. He becomes president in 10 days. Once again, Trey Gowdy.
There are collateral consequences of being a convicted felon. He may not be able to vote in future elections. Note the irony of that. He also can't possess a firearm.
The president-elect is appealing today's unconditional discharge to New York's highest court, the U.S. Supreme Court, expected to have the final say. The U.S. Supreme Court today is taking up the case of TikTok, the social media platform used by 170 million Americans, is facing a January 19th deadline to sell or be banned in this country.
TikTok is arguing that there are core First Amendment principles here, that the federal government can't just come in and try to ban a social media platform because it's worried about, quote, misinformation, or it's worried about their collection of data.
Correspondent Jan Crawford, critics fear TikTok's Chinese owners are using the site to conduct surveillance on the U.S. The December jobs report went public today, and it was a good one. Employers adding 256,000 jobs to their payrolls last month. The overall unemployment rate ticked down 0.1% to 4.1%. A brutal winter storm is bearing down on the southern U.S. from Texas to the Carolinas. Snow, ice, and freezing rain, all in the offering.
The biggest concern is people potentially getting stuck out on roadways. The region just doesn't have the equipment, the infrastructure to clear it all off.
Correspondent Jason Allen in Dallas today. NBC's Kathy Park standing by in Nashville.
Here in Nashville, when it's all over, we're looking up to 6 inches of snow. Tennessee has already declared a state of emergency, and some parts of the South could be looking at their biggest snowstorm in years.
More than 2,000 flights have been canceled or delayed because of the storm. Still to come on the Noon Report, Penn State loses heartbreaker. A conversation with Clint Owlett, and heads roll after inmate death.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams. We'll have a little snow to start the weekend across the area. I'll be back with the forecast details in 10 minutes.
All right, Kevin, we'll see you then. Let's check what's happening next across New York and Pennsylvania. Penn State licking its wounds today after last night's tough 3-point loss to Notre Dame in college football's national semifinal game. Here's how it sounded on ESPN.
41-yard attempts. Snap and hold are good. The kick is good! Notre Dame has won the Orange Bowl.
Notre Dame kicker Mitch Jeter nailed the game-winning field goal with 7 seconds left. The Fighting Irish move on to face the winner of tonight's Ohio State-Texas game. We'll have more on last night's game with Randy and Sports coming up. 4 more employees at the Marcy Correctional Facility in Oneida County, New York, have been fired following the December beating death of Robert Brooks. The 43-year-old was an inmate at that facility. The tragic incident was captured on video. Governor Hochul previously ordered 14 guards to lose their jobs. One of them has already resigned. Some do-gooders in Western New York are reaching out to the less fortunate this winter. Family Life's Dee Haley reports from our Buffalo newsroom.
A community project called 716 Giving Trees is helping people stay warm this winter with donation trees in Kenmore and the Elmwood Village. The Giving Trees project outfits neighborhood trees with winter essentials like hats, gloves, scarves, and socks, free for those who need them, funded by community donations and partners. The project also received a large donation from the sock company Bombas. The donation-based project was started by Kenmore resident Deanna Hall, reportedly following the devastating storm in 2022 that claimed the lives of 47 people. Dee Haley, Family Life News.
Won't soon forget that storm. Thank you very much, Dee. An employee at a Williamsport, Pennsylvania YMCA is accused today of stealing dozens of members' credit card information. Police say this employee was in possession of more than 80 YMCA customer credit cards. The information was reportedly found last week after that employee of the Y left a personal Gmail account open on a work computer. Reports today indicate that former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo may be announcing soon he's running for mayor of New York City.
Politico reports that Cuomo is contemplating rolling out his campaign in early February, just weeks before he can start petitioning to get his name on the ballot for the June primary. Cuomo has signaled in the past that he wouldn't want to challenge Mayor Eric Adams, but that's apparently changed as Adams' legal battles continue.
Kristen Marks reporting the 2025 legislative session is off and running in Pennsylvania. Northern Tier Representative Clint Owlett says this could be the year that his school choice bill becomes law. I spoke with him earlier today, and here's some of that conversation.
Yeah, for me, I would love to see our Lifeline scholarships. The governor calls it pass. I'd love to see that and come up for a vote in the House. It's passed in the Senate, so it'd be really great to see that happen all at the same time and make it to the governor's desk. It's something that he supported during his campaign, and obviously in the election here in Pennsylvania, just this past election, we really saw that school choice was something that people wanted. It was something that the president was talking a lot about, and we'd love to see that enacted here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Michael Gear told me yesterday that there's a lot of wind at this bill's back, meaning that the stars are aligned such that it should get across the finish line. It almost got there. We all remember that summer, 2 years ago, where the governor said he was for, and then all of a sudden he wasn't, and he actually took it out of the budget. If there is a stumbling block to this, obviously it's going to be a fight in your chamber. What do you think the fight will be over on school choice?
I think it's really what they're saying and what it actually is are two different things. So I think part of the battle is going to be actually communicating. This is new money. It's not actually taking any money from our current school systems. So it's new money. And I think that's the biggest thing that people don't quite understand about it, and it's hard for them to wrap their heads around. So I think that's going to be our biggest challenge. If we can communicate that clearly, that would be really great.
Of course, the other big item this term, and a lot of folks who are the same folks who pushed big tobacco, that same money is behind marijuana in the Commonwealth, and a lot of those for recreational marijuana say this is the year that's going to get done. Explain, if you would, Clint, why you are opposed to this effort.
Well, it's illegal at the federal level, and the last thing that we need right now is more folks getting their hands on illegal substances and addictive substances that we know cause a lot of different problems in the home. It was something that was proposed last year, and everybody said, it's going to happen, and it didn't last year. So, I think we need to continue our push to make sure that we can stop this. We can really look at what has happened in a lot of other different states that have enacted this, and the challenges that they see. So we're hoping to be able to continue to stop that, especially when you talk to the business community. When you talk to them, you say, hey, would you think it's a good idea for us to legalize recreational marijuana? The business community is like, absolutely not. Are you kidding me? Yeah. And so that is something that we want to see our Commonwealth grow. I think it's something that we can actually attract businesses and say, hey, we're not going down this road because we know it's bad for families, we know it's bad for business, and we know it's bad for people. So let's just lean on that and see if we can move forward.
Yeah. Do you think you have enough support from Republicans to hold the line on this, or do you think even those that know what you're talking about, the addictive nature of marijuana, problems that it's causing in communities, the smell of pot everywhere in states that have it, the threats to public safety with drug driving, they know all of that, but still they see that dangling carrot called the almighty dollar, and they go for it anyway. Or do you think there's enough Republicans in the Senate to keep this from becoming law this year in Pennsylvania?
I sure hope so. Listen, we were exactly the same makeup last year as we are this year, or last session to this session. So, and we were able to hold it last year. I think we just need to double down on what we did last year, and I think we can do that. I think it's really important. And just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean that we need to do it. I think we can actually be an outlier here and actually attract a lot of business, a lot of people that want to, recreate here in a positive light, and that's what we need to continue to strive for.
A great guy doing good work in Harrisburg. That's Pennsylvania's 68th House District Representative, Clint Owlett. His district, by the way, covers Tioga and Bradford counties in Pennsylvania's northern tier. We've got sports next. It's the 2-minute drill on the Family Life Noon Report.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, it was a thriller in Miami as the game came down to the very end. Notre Dame kicked a field goal with 10 seconds left and beat Penn State 27-24. It was a game the Nittany Lions should have won. They dominated the first half, yet could only take a 10-3 lead at halftime, and that really came back to bite them. The Fighting Irish figured things out at halftime and came out like a different team. The game turned into a boxing match as both sides landed punches, but Notre Dame landed the last one, and they now await the winner of the Ohio State-Texas matchup to play for the national championship. On the ice, the Buffalo Sabres spoiled the Ottawa Senators' homecoming, shutting them out 4-0. Jack Quinn scored twice. Dylan Cousins and Ryan McLeod also found the back of the net. It was the first time in almost a month that Ottawa back on their home ice. Sam Carrick scored in overtime, and the Rangers beat the Devils 3-2. Also lighting the lamp for New York were Adam Fox and Artemi Panarin. The Islanders won a 4-0 game against the Golden Knights. Anders Lee, playing in his 800th career game, found the back of the net to help the Isles to that victory. Sidney Crosby, a goal and 2 assists, and he moved into 9th place on the NHL's career scoring list. And yeah, the Penguins won the game 5-3 over the Oilers. The Flyers dropped a 4-1 decision to the Stars. The Avs, Blues, Canes, Jackets, and Lightning, your other winners. On the hardwood, your winners were Cleveland, Houston, Phoenix, Dallas, Golden State, Minnesota, and Charlotte. That is a look at sports.
All right, Randy, have yourself a wonderful weekend, and still to come on the Noon Report for Friday, the Capital Connection crew, our first broadcast of the new year. Canada's assisted suicide crisis, and Kev's got your weekend weather right after this.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center on Johnstone Street. Contrary to what Canadian officials have long claimed, the so-called safeguards that were put in place for the nation's medical assistance in dying or MAID practice are not sufficient. According to a recent report in the New Atlantis, hundreds of serious violations have occurred in just the province of Ontario, with none being reported to law enforcement. In Ontario, it's the coroner's office that's responsible for monitoring euthanasia malpractice. Although Chief Coroner Dick Hauer has boasted, and I quote, "Every case is reported, everybody has scrutiny in all these cases," physician whistleblowers there identified over 400 so-called issues with compliance, ranging from patients who were killed without being capable of consent to communication breakdowns with pharmacists providing the deadly prescriptions. For example, physicians are legally required to notify pharmacists about the purpose of the euthanasia medications prior to dispensation, but only 61% of physicians complied with this regulation. Even more troubling are the various reported cases of providers expediting euthanizing drugs to patients sooner than the legally required 10-day waiting period. In one case, a provider, Dr. Eugenie Tan, administered the wrong drugs. So when the patient did not die, the doctor then had to administer different drugs to complete the assisted suicide. Hauer failed to report this, eventually admitting that this was a blatant case of violating Canadian laws, saying the family and the deceased person suffered tremendously. Also, according to this report, about a quarter of all euthanasia providers in Ontario have received at least one slap on the wrist response from the coroner's office regarding some compliance issue in just 2023. Now, according to the national government, all reports should be opened as criminal investigations, but Hauer failed to report even one. Instead, he determined that all the issues in question required only an informal conversation with the practitioner. Even Dr. Tan, for example, received an email of warning and still remains licensed. Now, making this story worse is that medically assisted suicide is now the 5th leading cause of death in Canada. So this failure to minimize and regulate euthanasia there only confirms the fears that have long been articulated by critics. In fact, anywhere that some form of doctor-assisted death has been legalized, the predictions of slippery slopes have been realized. For example, 10 U.S. states, including the District of Columbia, legalized physician-assisted suicide since 1994. And in at least 5, restrictions and regulations around the practice continue to be loosened, leading to increased harm. Now, the good news is that it's been quite a few years since the last U.S. state legalized some form of doctor-assisted suicide. In fact, perhaps the only positive development of Canada's quick slide down this slippery slope is that America has been able to see the horrors, and what at one point seemed an inevitable march of our own has significantly slowed. In fact, last year, West Virginia voters narrowly passed an amendment to proactively outlaw so-called medical assistance in dying in that state. Among other things, the amendment recognizes that the state fundamentally exists not to just give citizens whatever they want, but to protect the gift and right to life that's been endowed by the Creator on all people, no matter how vulnerable they are. So in this sense, West Virginia has offered a useful model. Let's pray that other states take note and emulate it. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.
All right, thank you very much, John. Let's head outside next. Kevin Williams.
Here is your family life weather forecast for this afternoon. Some sunshine for a while, but clouding up across western New York and western Pennsylvania. High temperatures within a few degrees of 30. It'll be cloudy tonight and tomorrow. It'll snow a little bit from time to time. Generally, it's an inch or two. A little bit more in the western Twin Tiers. Low temperatures tonight, low 20s. High temps tomorrow, low 30s. And on Sunday, clouds, a little sun, couple of flurries with high temperatures in the 30s.
Thank you very much, Kevin. It is Friday, folks, the 10th of January. Congratulations, you made it. And this is the Noon Report on Family Life. Welcome back to another edition of Capital Connection. Fridays during the Noon Report, we give you, the listener, direct connection to what's happening in Albany and Harrisburg with the experts on the issues at the state capitals. They are Jason McGuire with New York Families and Michael Geer at the Pennsylvania Family Institute. Well, gentlemen, this is our first show of 2025. Happy New Year to you both. I don't know how long you can say that without it getting weird, but nonetheless, they're back in business in Harrisburg, Michael. The start of the 2025 legislative session kicked off this week. What are the policy issues that you will be keeping a close eye on?
Yeah, so the issues that we're going to be looking at, legalization of so-called recreational marijuana is on the docket, and it's something that we strongly oppose at Pennsylvania Family Institute. It's corrosive to family, society, safety, et cetera, so we'll be fighting that. The life issue is going to be of prime concern because we still have Democrat control in the House of Representatives, and they have shown themselves interested in pushing expansion of abortion in Pennsylvania, so we'll be fighting that. On the positive side, we do think that real gains can be made on the issue of school choice here in Pennsylvania. We have a good program, a tax credit program, but we'd like it to go further, to have the money follow the child so that every family gets a choice on where their children are educated.
Yeah, and they're back at work as well in Albany, Jason. The legislative session started this year. I got to ask you, you're going to see more of the cultural war type stuff or bread and butter issues? I know the governor will be talking more about this next week in her State of the State. She's using that word affordability a lot, how she intends to make New York a more affordable state to live in. Are any of her policies going to help with that goal?
You know, I think you'll see a couple of things. One, you will see those bread and butter issues. For example, the governor is now proposing a $1,000 child tax credit. That's a huge turnaround from just a few years ago. Our organization has advocated for an increase in the child tax credit. Now we'll be watching the details to see what that looks like, to see if we can maintain support for the governor's proposal. We do want a tax credit, not another form of a welfare support system, though. You know, on the other side, though, I think that there was a recent, just a brutal assault and killing of an inmate in upstate New York. That is probably going to move criminal justice reform issues back front and center. And I think that where we thought maybe we had moved off of that after the election, you'll see criminal justice type reform issues becoming front and center again in Albany.
Michael, you're talking about this on your website. We'll give that at the end. Planned Parenthood's efforts to infiltrate school board elections this year in Pennsylvania. Why is Planned Parenthood getting involved with education at the local level like this?
Well, I hope everybody asks themselves that question when you see Planned Parenthood, which is the nation's largest abortion organization, but also is involved in puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones behind the transgender ideology. Everybody should be asking, why does Planned Parenthood have their target on their kids? And getting involved in school board elections and supporting candidates, they're looking to do that, from what we understand, across the state to engage. And that's because school boards serve as the gatekeepers. And so when Planned Parenthood wants to get their explicit sex education programs in or put in school-based health health clinics, those sorts of things. They want this control of the school board so they can grease the skids to get what they want in the schools and target our children.
Yeah. Jason, it was kind of profound. You told me late last year that you predicted, just like it was with abortion when Roe v. Wade was overturned, that New York will become a safe haven, almost a tourism destination for minors from other states who want sex change operations and doctors who perform these controversial procedures as well, that they would find a friend in the state of New York. How is the Empire State laying the groundwork for this to happen?
Well, there's a number of things that are occurring. For example, we have doctors that are mailing abortion-type pills into other states. Now that will be likely tested in the court system to see whether or not that's going to be allowed to continue. Mm-hmm. We're also seeing, because of the direct flights from places like Florida to New York, which we normally think of people flying to Florida for a little sunshine in the winter weather, we find that many people are flying from Florida to New York to have their abortions. So we are seeing that is happening. We are becoming the destination for abortions really across the country.
Yeah, a lot's happening this month in our nation's capital. Of course, we've got the inauguration of Donald Trump on Monday, January 20th. But later that week, Michael, is the National March for Life in Washington. And you've been a proud partner of that for a lot of years. This year, the PA Family Institute is going to be offering bus rides to D.C. Tell our listeners how they can hitch a ride if they so desire.
Well, historically, Pennsylvania has sent the most people to the March for Life of any state, and part of that is our proximity to Washington, D.C. It's not that far, but also it indicates the pro-life sentiment that exists in our state. So there are buses going from across the state, and we would have that information on our website about the different buses. But then we at Pennsylvania Family Institute are sponsoring a bus that's leaving from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and then stopping and picking up people in York, Pennsylvania as well on its way to D.C. for the National March for Life. We're charging $10 per person, so it's subsidized. It's a very inexpensive way to go down to the National March for Life, and so people can find out more about that at our website at pafamily.org.
All right, we'll give that at the end. And Jason, this was a big story this week. Senate Republicans are not very happy with this green light law, which has been on the books for several years now in New York, which basically grants driver's licenses to illegal immigrants. With Donald Trump coming into office in January, they say it's time to re-examine this law. Has this law exacerbated at all the migrant crime crisis in New York?
Well, it's hard to tell because we suspect things are happening, but New York intentionally doesn't record data or release data that would point to those specific problems, so they can turn around and say there's no data that supports that assertion.
Yeah.
So there's some concern there. But, I also saw that Tom Homan, the incoming border czar, is now talking about essentially blocking New York plates from re-entering New York State from Canada unless New York will start to speak with the feds concerning DMV records. I think that could lead to some real positive things for dealing with some of the migration issues and the border crisis we're dealing with. And I appreciate Tom Homan, a New Yorker, standing up and doing the right thing on this matter.
And then, of course, if Canada becomes our 51st state, we won't have to worry about it. We'll save that debate for another day. But, Michael, this was a huge story last year, and we talked extensively about the amount of taxpayer money in Pennsylvania that is going towards these dangerous, life-altering operations on minors, so-called sex change operations. Pennsylvania seems to be leading the nation with these sorts of medical experiments. Is there anything from the state legislature position that can be done to prevent any more of this from happening?
Well, there is, and we're hoping that will happen in the Pennsylvania General Assembly. It'll be a tough fight, especially with Josh Shapiro as the governor and the Democrat control in the House. Yeah. But Pennsylvania, especially Children's Hospital in Philadelphia, it's called CHOP, and maybe that acronym kind of fits with what they're doing to mutilate minors, children, and things. They've been targeted or viewed as the number one hospital in the country in terms of doing this kind of stuff. And so we are trying to raise public awareness. As we raise public awareness, people speak out, talk to their legislators, and that's how we get change to happen.
Yeah. And then I want to touch on the immigration issue as we wrap up this week. We mentioned it briefly, Jason, but, Trump has made the deportation of dangerous illegal immigrants priority number one. In fact, the first piece of legislation passed out of the House this year had to do with this issue. Come January 20th, how much resistance do you think there will be to this agenda in Albany? Bernie?
I think you'll see a significant amount, and I'm glad you qualified in New York because there will be pockets of resistance across the country, and we're already hearing that in New York, that on one hand, the governor is reaching out to the president, realizing that a lot of the resources that the state receives, the federal resources, she's going to need help from the president. But on the other hand, there's resistance in the state legislature, and they're really doing everything they can to prepare for and to build up walls to really maintain things like the sanctuary state status and abortion and so many other things that are on the progressive mindset. So I think we've got a battle ahead for us, and we'll be putting out a lot of fires here in the Empire State in the days and months and years to come.
And that will have to be the last word this week, guys. But we've been a lot of places the past 10 minutes. If you are interested in hitching a ride to the March for Life Friday, January 24th, there is information, Michael, on your website as to how folks can do that. If you would, please, what is that website?
PAFamily.org.
And stay informed on all the issues as the 2025 legislative session gets underway in New York. Jason McGuire fighting the fight in Albany. What's your website, sir?
NewYorkFamilies.org.
All right, great show, guys. Thank you very much. Capital Connection comes your way every Friday during the Noon Report. You can subscribe to, listen to, and share this feature along with all our original podcasts at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or FamilyLife.org.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. A storm system bringing snow and ice to portions of the southern states will be grazing our area tonight into tomorrow with some light snow. Then the skies will break for a little sun with some scattered flurries on Sunday with more moderate temperatures than we have seen of late. For this afternoon, some sunshine for a while, but clouding up across western New York and western Pennsylvania. High temperatures within a few degrees of 30. It'll be cloudy tonight and tomorrow. It'll snow a little bit from time to time. Generally, it's an inch or two. A little bit more in the western Twin Tiers. Low temperatures tonight, low 20s. High temps tomorrow, low 30s. And on Sunday, clouds, a little sun, couple of flurries with high temperatures in the 30s.
Thank you very much, Kevin. And finally, Noon, as you put away that Christmas stuff, for some of us, it happens sooner than others. It's also time to give some love to other greenery in the home. Family Life's Brian Query.
By mid-January, most of our holiday decorations and trees have made their way out of our homes. So it's time to give some love to the other green plants in your home, as January 10th is Houseplant Appreciation Day. It reminds us that we don't have to lose the freshness and vibrancy that plants bring to our homes just because Christmas has passed. If you have the post-holiday blues, this is the perfect chance to brighten up your house with a lovely plant that you can enjoy all year long. Don't forget, there are benefits too. Houseplants convert carbon dioxide into oxygen. They also put moisture into the air. And most are easy to care for and have an array of household uses that help you save money. So whether you have a green thumb or you're just kicking around the idea of a low-maintenance cactus, it's time to roll up your sleeves and bring the outdoors inside. Brian Query, Family Life News.
All right, Brian, thank you very much. And that's our world, the world we live in. Friday, January 10th. Have a wonderful weekend. I'm Bob Price, Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.